Hey YouTube, Relent here. Having to redo this video, but I wanted to make this video to explain why I put probably not for another US Civil War. While I gave the optimistic case and what I think is going to be right, that there won't be, there are concerning factors that correlate with others in US history. So I wanted to discuss those, and these include economic, logistical, political, and how cultures change over time. I'll also be giving a really good dark horse theory about how intelligence, history, and blunders could escalate. If it did go wrong, it could have escalated to something even bigger than a civil war, and it would change human history forever. And then lastly, I'll just go over some historical civil wars and how we compare. So redoing this video because I actually, on the last time I did the history part first, but I think it's more for these types of videos for y'all to hear how it affects America first. So let me get right into it. How it technically could happen is, and I'll do this kind of in a ranked way about how a civil conflict could happen, is when you think of civil war, especially civil wars in general, but what I would say now, there are two main factors. There are the culture side, which we're seeing, sniffs of, especially after the Charlie Kirk assassination. You got the culture, and then you got the economy. So America, the first one was different because there was a lot of slavery, which I would say is cultural, but America can survive one or the other. But and most countries can survive one or the other. But when both fall, that's when really, really bad stuff happens. So right now we're seeing the culture pillar fall a little bit, and but the economy, even though the economy is, and I'm not like a finance major or anything, but even though the economy is, we're feeling inflation, it's getting the employment, the job market is garbage, it's like a dumpster fire. Generally speaking, as a nation, we're doing okay, especially post COVID. We're doing okay. So that hasn't fallen yet, but here are the buts. Because of where we are internationally with international affairs, with the tariffs going on right now, we are vulnerable both on a value perspective and on an allyship perspective with BRICS coming up. So the petrodollar and the US dollar is slowly losing, like we're having competition. So if something major was to happen in the stock market, there could be a civil war because that's when people lose jobs. That's when people lose, food. Mainly jobs, but food's the big one. Like if people can't buy groceries, yeah, you're going to be seeing chaos in the streets. So that is the easiest factor into why a civil conflict could happen. Again, I don't think it will, but that's the easiest one into why it could. The second one I would say is technologically. So technologically, very similar to the build up to World War One with tanks and planes. There was a lot of new technology that world psychopathic and sociopathic world leaders were just dying. The war industrial complex was just dying to try out. So that's one where it kind of correlates with where we are today with the advancements in cyber warfare, with the advance in fourth gen and fifth generation warfare with new technology. So that is one case. It kind of goes into the economy too with technology, and there's a power grab aspect to both of those. Another one is politically. Now, this one I don't think is going to happen because with the first Civil War in America, while slavery was like a core issue that was bothering mainly the Union, but not everyone in the Union, but just it was bothering a lot of people. Another reason was of the vote system with the legislative and I think mainly just the legislative branch. So Congress, they get a certain amount of votes. I think it's like 400, 300, 500 something. And then Senate gets, I think, 101 or 102 or 103. And because of the slave states were growing and expanding, the votes, that's where a lot of the conflicts, one state got too many votes. And as we gained more territory, it just fell apart. And so that's why I think South Carolina was the first to succeed. So that's probably not going to happen now. The only time I think it could happen is with illegal immigration, but we're not gaining states. So like Congress could get one or two votes in certain states, and that's a big deal, but it's not on the level of, hey, we just, you just gained 100, 300,000 people, and then also a new state, a new territory, a whole new legislative bracket there. And so that's why recently a lot of Republicans have been against illegal immigration, is because of the political aspect, but it's not on the level of the Civil War round, the first Civil War, the only Civil War, hopefully. So that's one. And then also for the politics, you would have to have politicians go full dummy, like full retard from Tropic Thunder. And even though our leaders are abysmal, I think as a society, especially with information and how we just talk, I don't think it could happen. Now, unless there was military in the street, then a police state would happen. And I'm not excluding ICE in there because that has illegal immigrants. It's just not the same. So I don't think politically it's going to advance that far. And then lastly is socially. So but on politically, my bad. On politically, it could, in theory, if that really happened. I don't think it's likely. And then last one is socially, just the tribalism and the tech censorship. Even though I think it's finally dying down, which again for me this has been years coming. And rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. But I think it's gonna. Well, it's hard, but pretty much censorship and tribalism is correlated. So I think socially that could escalate in theory to a civil conflict. But you would need like everyday people like me and you out in the street fighting a neighbor. Like I again on my last video, I think psychologically it's just not there, and we're not at that level. So those are the technical reasons why a hot conflict could happen. Let me give you my dark horse theory, and I'm going to kind of get serious on this because this has very serious implications. So, on my channel, I go over intelligence theories and activities, and I just like talking about them. I think they're, to be real, I think they're fascinating. But let's say, so a lot of people are hearing a lot of rumors and news about Israel and how there could be a tie with that and Epstein. And just Epstein ties in general, Russian disinformation. There are other intelligence agencies. And so what would happen if either, all right, hear me out. Here's the theory. So what if someone, it could be US or abroad, found evidence of a core deep intelligence theory? If that gets brought to light now after Charlie Kirk and it implements both sides, that could get really bad because it's one thing to have, us versus them as far as Democrats and Republicans. But if a deep intelligence evidence came out for, let's say, 9/11, which I don't know what, that's hard, but 9/11 or COVID, there's a lot of major events in the last 20 years, or even like JFK is another one, JFK, or even maybe aliens. I'm not a big alien guy, but like a big what we talk about in conspiracies, but these aren't conspiracies. JFK did get shot, so like these deep JFK 9/11 are the ones I can think of. But let's say evidence comes out on one of those, or COVID. Let's say COVID is another big one. That would implicate both political parties in America for an extended period of time, screwing over the American public and then lying about it on a national stage. That could get ugly. Now, that brings us to tie into what I'll get is historical references. And so, in my dark horse theory, like let's say a key intelligence evidence was shown, that could be similar to the French Revolution. Like, oh, my bad, you guys. I totally forgot the most obvious example, Epstein. So let's say some hard Epstein list evidence came out or footage came out. And then you have all of these elites. You have all these political elite, economic elite, global elite. That could cause mayhem because everyday Americans are now thinking of those factors I told you. They're now thinking of you've stole from me economically, you've held back from us technologically, you've screwed us politically, and now we're having to deal with it socially. And I think that could be similar to the French Revolution, where we get all the elites and round them up. And I'm not condoning this. I don't want this. Again, on my last video, I say I'm glad we've advanced beyond this, but that's what I think the dark Like that's the dark timeline, and it would change everything. Like we would have to modernize the Constitution to like an advanced level. We would keep the same foundational ideas, but we would have to modernize it to be more efficient. And then also, it would just change human history because I mean, the United States is we've had the longest running constitution for almost 250 years, and so hopefully we're not identical to Rome, where we last a little longer. We rise fast and fall fast. So that's my dark horse theory. But let me get into some historical examples of civil conflicts. So the most obvious one is Rome. I know we get a lot of similarities with Rome. I'm not a Rome expert, so when that Roman Empire meme was going around, I was kind of like pissed off 'cause it's like I studied everything but Rome. Uh, but Rome is very similar, except importantly, geography. So when you think back to Rome and how it was growing and shrinking and growing, dividing, growing, and eventually fell, they were always surrounded by enemies. The United States is very privileged on international scale because of that. We have oceans to the east and west, Canada up front, who we're good friends with, and then Mexico in the south, who we're relatively decent with. Not great. I know the cartels, it's big right now, but like it wouldn't be like a well, there's a lot of cartels, but it wouldn't be like us fighting Germany in the 40s. Like it would be modern terror, but we're relatively good with them. So Rome had to deal with Germanic tribes in the north, Mongols in the east, uh, even I think UK. Well, no, they had most of the UK in New Rome, but they always had people around them that they had to manage and struggle with, and we don't have to do that. The fun one I like talking about a lot. This one cracks me up. I have a old coworker who's Mong, and I'm kind of gonna go in on the Mong people a little bit. Mongol history is fascinating because they were extremely empirical. So they had a very nomadic. It's funny, the nomadic like lifestyle and art and just how their culture, their nomadic culture, hid. It was a mask for a very empirical and militaristic people. And this happened, I believe, under Genghis Khan, who started it, but he at least was the biggest. But they were known technologically for their advancements. That was really their X factor, was their tech. That's why they lived by the horse and the bow. Both of those, the Mongol horse and the Mongol bow at the time, were they were broken. The bows could shoot, I think, 50 to 100 yards further than any other bows in the world. And then their horses were not faster. Big misconception. They weren't faster. They had more endurance. I think they were a little slower, but they never got tired. And so you have these giant plains with this nomadic warrior culture who uses the bow and arrow to just demolish these people. But Mongols were extremely good at policy. And that's what's crazy about Mongols is they were exceptional militarily, exceptional with policy. Like with Russia, actually has, I think it's Alexander Nevsky. Or no, yeah, there's a Russian uh, figure in history who he's the one that bent the knee to the Mongols, while everyone else, because the Mongols would come to these these countries and be like, "Hey, give us 15% of your money, and we'll let you keep your religion, and we won't kill you. I'll marry off my daughter to you, but that'll be it. You can do whatever you want." So they actually were pretty lenient, and a lot of countries said no and got burned to the ground. But Russia bent the knee, but full circle with Mongols. So they were exceptional military, exceptional with policy. Family drama screwed them. After Genghis Khan, I guess he was maybe too big for even their history. After Genghis Khan, family drama, and a lot of this had to do with China at the time, but their inner family drama, similar to European nobility, demolished the Mongols very quickly. Like they're still around, but they lost their empirical might. So that's one civil war, and there was a lot of civil wars there. The other one is France. France is more of a revolution. So, as I said with my dark horse theory, that would be more of a revolution than a civil war. But with France, that happened. I'm not huge in the French. It happened to a lot of reasons. I won't get into that because that's just a really long one. But the next one I wanted to go over was China. China is very interesting because China, they're very community based in their history, which at the time there's a lot of communities. Like their civil war would be like 8 factions, while our civil war was only 2. But with China, they had the one I remember is the Taiping Rebellion. They had someone who claimed to be a prophet of Jesus, and it was this. I think it's a top five bloodiest conflict. There was a dynasty change at the time, which is important in China, but it's a top five bloodiest human bloodiest conflict of all time. So crazy one there. The other one is the American Civil War. I went over that too a little bit earlier. That was due to slavery and like how we were establishing the legislative branch. So I think that's relatively fixed with the exception of illegal immigration. And then the last one, just an honorable mention, even though I don't know a lot about it, I wanted to bring it up, was the Spanish Civil War in Spain. Um, Civil War in Spain around World War II. They actually weren't involved in World War II a lot because they were having a bloody civil war and were either in it or recovering from it. So just wanted to bring that up if you wanted to look into it. So yeah, that's gonna be the video. I know this is I had to do 3 videos for this just because I couldn't get the intro right at all, but let me know what you think. I thought, I should give the why I put probably. I don't think a hot conflict's gonna happen. The ones that concern me would be if there was intelligence blunders, either domestically or from counterintelligence agencies in foreign countries, or if our leaders just go full throttle to stupid land and like if they use their anger on both sides, anger, shame, whatever you want to get, they use their emotions to get. We've been doing judicial warfare already the last 10 years. We've been doing big tech warfare, but if they're dumb enough to make it militaristic, that's where things could get ugly. But again, I think we've evolved as a society enough where that wouldn't happen. And we all just live in a time of privilege of, you know, being able to live relatively with a lot of access outside of maybe buying a home because it's too expensive. So that's going to be the video. Let me know your thoughts. I've been getting some comments lately. I love to get them, even if I disagree with you or I know I can come on like a little strong as far as when I get political, but I like hearing disagreements. You know, if you want to call me whatever names you want, feel free. I try not to get super combative, but I'm quick. I can be quick. So, but this is an open forum. I'm still kind of learning this format. Would love to discuss with y'all. So let me know y'all's thoughts. If y'all have any questions about history, how things could turn out, or video ideas. So that'll be it. Relent out. Thank you.